It's all these years ago, but I can remember it just as though it was yesterday.
He was not allowed out of camp, not allowed to speak to any civilians. Nobody told us why.
They put us on these trains to go wherever we'd got to go.
I was only about, 19, 20?
That's when we began to realise that things were getting serious.
When I was on the landing craft, I was enjoying it, watching all the fireworks.
I, for one, was saying, well, Harry lad, this is it. There's no turning back now, is there?
It was long and it was frightening, and the planes were overhead bombing. That was the time that I felt, have I done something wrong?
I see the lads who we were talking to on the ship, see them then face down in the water.
I was lucky because it was only flying shrapnel.
When you look round and you didn't see some of your friends, you then said, oh, this is serious stuff now.
I wasn't scared. I was absolutely terrified. When you're 18 years old and you don't know a lot of goes on in the world, you just accepted everything that came.
We just took it as we was coming, you know, I didn't think about it.
I was that age, just before 18th birthday, that I was going dancing on a night and having a drink with my pals and that, you know. I wasn't interested in the war.
The officer in the unit sent for me. He said, well, we're very short of men to escort some of these tanks over the channel into Normandy. And then a sort of a quick journey and come back again.
We were suddenly called back to Tilbury in Essex, put into a barracks with all wire fencing around. He was not allowed out of camp, not allowed to speak to any civilians. Nobody told us why.
There was about maybe 200 of us. The officer was stood in front of us with all photographs of the Normandy coast. That's the first time we knew what was coming up.
I thought it'd be in a few days' time, and they said no. They said, just go back to your depot, get yourself decked out, steel helmet, the lot, back here in an hour.
The skipper called the whole crew together and he said, the invasion is imminent. You're now confined to the boat and the jetty. You'll each be given a buff postcard printed to say that you're well, and you will write when circumstances permit. I was only about, 19, 20?
We got paid 15 pence a day, 3 shillings a day. That's all we were worth.
When we had our final briefing for D-Day, there they went into the close detail of what we were to do. It would finish, this objective must be achieved, whatever the cost. And they weren't talking about equipment, were they?
Dream when you're feeling blue. The first night I was in the army, I cried. I lay in my bed and I physically cried, because I did not know what was going to happen to me.
I came home from work and there was a brown envelope waiting for me. When they opened the envelope, the government needed my presence at Richmond Barracks. So I packed a small suitcase Mother and father saw me off at York Station and I was on my way to Richmond.
Then the letter came. Mother said, well, you better open it. So I opened it and it was said, you've been accepted. And she said, good grief, who's going to tell your dad? So I had to wait for him coming home from work and I told him. He went stark raving mad. He said, you can't go. I said, you can't stop me, Dad. I've signed.
I was called to register, told the army sergeant I was already being accepted by the Navy, and that was that.
I was a conscript, I wasn't a volunteer. Like most people that served in Normandy at my age were conscripts.
I was 23 and I was a bit of bravado there. You don't think too deeply about things, even then.
I was called up, and because I could already drive, they drafted me into the Royal Army Service Corps.
We were put in the army from Civvy Street, trained as soldiers, and your training was to kill the enemy.
We, for instance, were the first brigade to do a mass jump. We had to do it. We were the first brigade to use in action cotton parachutes as opposed to silk parachutes, you know, this kind of stuff.
Now, I just want to emphasise on that. We did no training as regards D-Day.
We travelled up into Scotland. We did all the training ready. I was a gunner on a Crusader tank. The training was landing, learning to get off and then go up the beach and that kind of thing.
But we had nothing like that. We were more or less thrown in at the deep end.
You know, we were rookie troops. We had never been in action.
Tell my corporal to tell the girls that I'd gone on compassionate leave. He said, you'll be back in about 2 or 3 days.
They put us on these trains to go wherever we'd got to go, you know.
What kind of a soldier am I going to be? Am I going to shirk? Am I going to dodge? Am I going to only give half of it? And I decided that I would give it totally. If I was one of those who died, it wouldn't be because I'd surrendered.
All our personal effects were taken off us and we just had the military issue. Got currency.
French money, invasion money they called it.
And life preservers. That's when we began to realise that things were getting serious.
We have never been on a ship before, never been on a beach before. We're just, we're going to France, you know, it's like a Boy Scouts adventure sort of type feeling. We boarded the ship and we stashed all our gear where we were going to sleep in the bunks and down below.
I thought, well, this is it. At least I'm getting something different, and off I went. I don't think I felt anything desperate at that time.
We didn't seem to think about it much. We just carried on and done what we'd got to do, you know.
We were the outside escort for the first convoy out of Portsmouth.
It was a very old boat. One of the 7,000 admittedly off of the Normandy coast. I should say it was an old colliery boat.
Halfway over there was a place called Piccadilly Circus, where all the boats had to pass through, and then they were directed to whichever beach that they were supposed to go to. Chock-a-block of ships, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, landing crafts, anything that would float.
I had my pack of sandwiches with me, which was the inevitable army sandwiches of corned beef, and that was all we had. We all had one, and that was it to go across the channel. No smoking, as little talking as possible, keep together. You'll be there for a few hours.
We were called out of bed, went for breakfast, which consisted of Scotch porridge with salt, not sugar, salt, a mug of tea, a corned beef sandwich and a tot of rum. That will give you a bit of courage.
I remember playing cards, going over with the Winnipeg Rifles, the Canadians.
People say, what about your friends? I said, well, you hadn't time to make friends, really.
But you don't know anything about their social life. I didn't know where they lived. I didn't know if they were married, you know, if they had families or what. I didn't know anything about them. But they were pals, you know, they were my army comrades.
We were all called up onto the top deck, and the officer was telling us different things, what we were going to do. And then a Dakota flew over the top of the ship, and the officer said, when you see those black and white stripes, they're our planes. Any other planes belong to the enemy, like.
People think of us as rough and ready infantrymen, and yet they all wanted to be blessed by the Padre before the landing.
It was long and it was frightening, and the planes were overhead bombing. And that was the time that I felt, have I done something wrong?
Then we went close into Sword Beach to act as an escort for some motor launches that were specially fitted with shallow water minesweeping gear.
Our lads were in a poor state. From the seasickness point of view, they couldn't wait to get off. It was hard lines for any German who was stood in front of them. Yeah.
I didn't feel that it was that bad, the weather, like, you know. I sort of took it was all right.
There was a little bit of humour, but not much. There was a kind of subdued conversation going on.
I think you were sort of a bit numb. You were told to do this and you had to do it. You were under orders and you didn't look ahead.
That was a bombastic chap. He wasn't afraid of anybody or anything. And just before we landed, I felt a tap on my shoulder, this little Cockney lad, and he says, "I'm scared, mate." I always remember that. I'm scared, mate.
We had orders to go in broad daylight, in line abreast, and when we got to within about 100 yards of the beach obstacles, we ordered a 90-degree turn and started to make smoke, and we went the whole way down Sword Beach, laying a smoke screen. When we got to the end of the beach, we turned to get out of it. As we were going out, the first of the landing craft were going into the smoke screen.
The tide came in and we couldn't go down the ramp, so we had to go over the side and down a scramble neck into a wee boat and get up onto the beach. So I had to do all that.
And then we transferred onto what they called a roy now, which is like a massive raft sort of thing, and went ashore on that.
Because our dropping zone was about 3 miles from the coast, it meant that we had to stand up over the sea. But then, this storm of disapproval from the enemy hit us. We were buffeted here, there, and everywhere. We could see the explosions, we could feel the effect of the explosions. We were hanging on because we were standing up.
The big ships opened up with their big guns, firing on the German positions on the shore.
We could see ahead of us the most amazing fireworks display that you have ever seen in your life.
When I was on the landing craft, I was enjoying it. I was leaning on the side watching all the fireworks. Oh, look at all this, rockets, explosions, smoke, dust, all the rest of it, And I'm just looking. I wasn't concerned at all. Why? I don't know.
I, for one, was sort of saying, well, Harry lad, this is it. There's no turning back now, is there?
I wasn't scared. I was absolutely terrified.
We landed at Gold Beach.
We went close into Sword Beach.
I landed on Gold Beach.
We landed on Juno Beach.
So I landed on Gold Beach.
We were back off Omaha Beach.
We were bang on time, but in the wrong place. One of them imparted the information that they expected 50% casualties on landing.
Just imagine it's been raining, there's a big puddle of water there. Accidentally you put your foot in it. What do you say? Oh, look at my socks all wet through. And that's the feeling I had. I wasn't bothered about the bullets, the shells or whatever. My socks wet through.
I happened to land in water. It guaranteed me a soft landing, and I was okay. And by the time I got rid of my shoe, looked around, put my gun together, see if I was going to be taken prisoner or shot immediately.
Our rank was driver, not private, driver. You had to cover all your electrical wiring with this plasticine. Extension exhaust pipe put on, which came up and over the roof of the lorry.
Strongest memory was being on this landing craft tank and the front opening up, and then we just driving out sort of business.
We drove off the landing craft because they couldn't get close enough into the beach because it was too shallow, and we drove off, and I literally drove completely underwater, completely submerged. Only a few minutes, but we were completely underwater.
It's a strong current in the channel. The sand builds up under the waves, and some of the landing crafts came into these humps and stopped, and they thought they was on the beach. They dropped the ramp, and some of the lads were 10 foot, 20 foot of water with all their gear on. No chance.
But the sea was so rough that when we dropped the ramps, they were just slewing all over. The ship was swinging, trying to get side on, and that's when people were being killed.
All the stuff they had just weighed them down in the water, and, you know, they drowned.
When daylight came, we could see the circle parachutes in the flooded area where men had obviously dropped and had been unable to rescue themselves. 192 men died in that flooded area.
I'd never seen any dead bodies before. I was brushing against which I thought were logs, and there were bodies, corpses. And then, of course, when you got actually on the beach or a bit higher up, there'd be part of a body up in a tree and part on the these are the things I've tried to forget in the past.
We was one of the first on the beaches. There was quite a lot of activity. We just sort of pushed on from there, we did.
They didn't take any encouraging to get down the ramp. We were off like rabbits up this beach.
I wasn't frightened, I was hyped up. It's funny, it's a funny feeling. The adrenaline was going, you know, and it was all happening round about you. I didn't have any feelings of fear.
We just concentrated on what we were told to do. You know, your section will go there, you carry out that operation. That was it.
Now, we were so busy, we got so much to do, like you didn't think about being scared. It was only when some got killed or anything like that, that it come back to you now.
Some of the landing craft also set off the mines on the cross pieces of the defences on the beach, and they were destroyed.
There were about 7 of them really badly wounded. They were ripped with shrapnel. So we laid them out on the mess deck tables. But all we got to help them with were iodine ampoules and large wound dressing. So we couldn't do a real lot for them except keep them comfortable.
There was terrible noise where I was, you know, the guns firing and the shells exploding, you know, the enemy firing shells at us and our guns firing at them. The noise was tremendous.
We were stuck on the beach for about 25 minutes past 7 until about 12 or half past.
You're hearing gunfire from one section, something else from another section, and you're keeping your eyes open all the time.
It was frightening at the time, and all you think about when there's bombs falling is, am I safe? Full stop, and I was down on the ground.
I didn't see the point in diving for cover. There were so many men crying out for attention themselves who presumably had been diving for cover.
What sticks in my mind, the Canadians, they were the assault troops and they was in front of us. And when we went up the beach, there was some of them lying there, you know. They've been killed. I've been playing cards with some of these blokes.
We zigzagged up from the beach, and you know you're not allowed to stop. You hesitate, and somebody from behind was saying, "Keep going, lad." You're not allowed to stop, even if it's your brother. You'd have to keep going, because you become another casualty if you stop to help.
I was only 2 days in the front line. I was loaded up, ammunition, hand grenades, so I had everything, but I never fired a shot. But if I had seen anybody, I suppose I would have killed them, because I was trained to do it.
I never fired a shot in anger, but I was on duty every night for 12 to 14 hours without a break.
I'd been taught to kill as an infantryman with or without weapons.
We only had Sten guns. They were not the finest fighting weapons that the British Army has ever produced. At 50 yards, they lost any kind of accuracy.
It was very doubtful. It could have been immersed in sandy water, and Sten guns were notorious not to fire when you wanted them to fire. Whereas a German equivalent, the Schmeiser, was an absolutely beautiful weapon.
You're all in the army together. They're all your mates. And to see them killed was a horrible thing.
You get to a stage where fear is replaced by acceptance. You think, well, I'm not going to get through today. Can't do anything about it.
We were the furthest inland on D-Day, but we had to pull back. Our navy was shelling us because we'd gone too far, and they thought we were the enemy.
We dug a big trench so we could run the tank into it, so as we was protected then for a bit, you know.
We must have landed after the British Army, but we moved up and down the beach wherever they needed men. If there were 10 of us, we could give them 2,000 men at the drop of a hat. We could land anywhere, and we did.
Now, we were a constant target for German fighters. We didn't actually do any fighting, as it were. You defend yourself if the need came up. But we were a target all the time, because if they could put us out of action, it stopped the forward troops getting all their supplies.
Most of the Germans were behind, apart from the blockhouses, they were behind steel and concrete bunkers.
And we had to take those batteries out. We chased the Germans out of the battery. We put explosives in the breech of the guns and blew them up. We had a sniper who held us up for about 5 hours. Just one chap. We couldn't find him. We still kept popping up. We eventually found him, like, you know. He just got shot, and that's it. We do away with them snipers.
One about a signal that had been killed. I had to go and recover the set from his back. And that's the first time I'd handled a corpse. It wasn't the last, admittedly, then afterwards, but
all of a sudden, all the sky lit up with a flare. And we all dived into the ditches, and about 5 minutes after, pounded by an organ grinder. It was a 8-barrel mortar, makes a horrible noise. It fires 8 rounds at the same time, and we was peppered with those.
It was noisy, it was frightening. You looked at the sand and the dunes, and you wondered how many had lived and how many had died.
We're more concerned about getting off the beach and getting inland.
We moved inland then after that. I went up towards Scone then. There were buildings there, and of course we went nosing around, and I picked up a German sniper rifle, which I took as a souvenir, like, you know. I think I transferred it for food, like corned beef.
When we stopped, we were told to get in these trenches. They were like a 5-foot circular hole, just as though it took a plug of earth out of the... So the first night we slept in a German trench. There were 2 of us in the trench, like, you know. And I woke up and I think I got a bit of lockjaw.
I had 5 months as an infantryman before I was wounded the second time. In the 5 months, I never slept in a building. I never slept in a bed. I never used a toilet. If you was a driver on supply trucks and that, you had your bed rolls and you had your cooking stoves. You could roll your bedding down by the side of your truck, underneath your truck, in your truck.
We used to sleep in the cab of the lorry every night, sitting up with the head at the back, unless you was called out. And this particular night, I said to my co-driver, I'm fed up with sleeping in this cab. I said, let's get out and get under the lorry. But when I got up in the morning, the window screen where I would have been sitting and sleeping was all smashed to smithereens by a piece of shrapnel from a German bomb.
I couldn't see how we could escape this tremendous downpour of mortar shells and shells. And I sat on a bale of straw and I just waited for a shell to come through the roof, and that would be me. And when dawn came, I was still there.
We could hear the drone of the aircraft in the distance. Everybody knew then the difference in ours and theirs, and we knew it was theirs coming nearer. And the patrol sergeant was getting quite near me, and suddenly he said, "Watch out!" And then just down, 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 and you just fell flat because it was coming over, and bombs fell.
I met the wireless operator from another boat in the flotilla. I said, "God, you're as white as a sheet." "Oh yes," he said, "it was last night. An enemy shell came through the side of the boat, across the WT cabin, out the other side, and didn't explode." Well, you knew every time you went out, there was a chance.
At Tilly, we was in a hedgerow, and I don't know what it was, what they call an air burst, a shell that comes up and it explodes in the air, and all the shrapnel comes down. I don't know whether it was that, or that a shell hit a tree and exploded and all the shrapnel came down. And I got a load of shrapnel in my back and leg.
I was lucky because it was only flying shrapnel that hit me in the mouth, knocked a tooth out in front, and hit me in the face there. And I've got that little dent in the bone there. You see it?
The people that claim to have problems, our unit, medical officers, will send them back to battalion headquarters, give them a tablet, a good night's sleep, and then send them within 2 days back up.
They sent regular soldiers that had been in action in the Middle East, in the desert, and put them in our battalion. Now the chap who was lying next to me, he was taken to Normandy in handcuffs. He was a regular soldier, but he got killed.
D-Day, to my mind, was to get men and materials aboard.
It really sunk in on the second day. We're talking to people and then you say, "Where's Charlie? Where's Billy?" Or, name. "Oh, didn't you hear about them?" I said, "They got killed yesterday." And that's how you found out. When you look round and you didn't see some of your friends, you then said, "Oh, this is serious stuff now."
The German soldier, there's the old men that are put in because they're short of men, as we were.
They're just same as us. They was brought into the army and told follow orders. We were the same kind of person.
The Hitler Youth are the worst of the lot. They've been brought up to nothing else but hatred. When they say that they'll fight to the last, they do. SS, yes, they knew when to pack in, most of them.
We captured some prisoners, with 2 or 3 SS people. We had a chap taking all the details of the prisoners. SS chap comes up, "What's your name?" He spat at the chap, so they just picked his stinger up and did him out of the way.
There was a lot of reprisals taken both on the British and German side with prisoners.
They came out and they put their hands up. Well, the same as us, shell shocked sort of thing, sent back to the prisoner of war cages.
Sometimes you were more or less ordered, not officially, not to take prisoners, but you didn't always obey those regulations.
all the time, because I've got blood with it. And I said, is it my eye? I said, no, it's not your eye, you're all right. So they cleaned me up and patched me up and kept me there till morning.
When I woke up, I was in the field hospital. A nurse was sticking needles in my backside, which wasn't very pleasant. And that's when I was wounded. And I was in there for a couple of days. Then I was shipped back to England.
They took me down to the beach, and there I reported again to the return to UK unit.
I was 3 months in hospital and I lost 4 mates. 4 of my mates got killed.
I was involved with tanks then, and there were so many tanks that were blown up and so many men killed.
Sometimes I get a flashback, something will click up here, takes me back to D-Day.
I see it. I see the lads who we were talking to on the ship, see them then face down in the water. And you wanted to go and pull them out, but they're gone. That's the big thing I see.
More or less, that's the cost of war. That's the price you pay.
The I came back, but they did not. They're still there. The sacrifice that they made, that means a lot to me. That means a lot.
I resonate more with the sacrifice than I do with the desired consequences of the sacrifice. I must be careful, I can get very moved over this.
The true heroes are the thousands of young men that are still there and never came back.
Well, D-Day itself, as I said, it's like an adventure. It didn't bother me, D-Day. It only bothers me after D-Day.
I knew that I'd been responsible for the killing and wounding of many of the so-called enemy, and it didn't do me any good at all.
I blocked it away for years now. My son didn't know till he was 30-year-old that I'd been in the army.
No, I can't tell you. Most soldiers standing by the graves of their friends, prayed on. And you don't want me to go there.